What's going on, guys? I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this, but hopefully if I uploaded this before Black Friday, the Black Friday sale is live on the website. Go ahead and cop some merch. You'll get a huge discounted rate. Support the channel. Love y'all. So today I want to talk about 5 reasons why you should wait until marriage for sex. And I know a lot of times when we hear that, we just hear the church talk about the Bible said so, or do it because you don't want to go to hell. I want to talk about more reasons other than, going to hell. Because I know a lot of times that's the only thing stopping us. And if that's the only thing stopping people, then people are going to do whatever they want. So I want to talk about some practical reasons why you need to understand that waiting until marriage is better. No matter how great it feels, how pleasurable it is, or what everyone else is doing, waiting until marriage is beneficial to your life. So let's talk about a few of those things right now. So the first thing I'll say is this: sex clouds your judgment. I know many of you, if you've been there, trust me, you understand what it means to be with someone that you don't really love, but because of the sex, you feel connected. And that is partly not just because of how great the sex may feel, but it's also a hormone that God gave us. It's called oxytocin, and this hormone gets released through breastfeeding, it gets released through sex, and it gets released through childbirth, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a form of a bonding agent. And a lot of moms, if you're listening to this right now, you know exactly what it means to feel more connected to your child through breastfeeding, or more connected because you gave birth, or you feel connected to a guy because you had sex with them. That's what is oxytocin doing. It's something that is bonding you to someone. And then when we do this with someone that we're not married to, we begin to bond ourselves or unite ourselves with people that God didn't intend for us to be with. Because marriage is when you should be releasing that hormone and connecting to someone on a deeper level. But when you have those one night stands, and when you have those, oh, that's my boyfriend, that's my girlfriend, I love them, you begin to become one, as the Bible is telling you, you become one with your spouse. We're becoming one with people God never intended for us to become one with. So I believe that many people are in a wrong relationship because of the sex. The sex is making them feel as though they're in love. And if we're honest, if we remove sex out of the equation, many of us will realize that, yeah, this is not the person for me. That you'll realize many things about them. They don't work, or they don't have any ambition. You'll realize that this person may be mean or condescending towards you. You'll realize this person genuinely doesn't even love Jesus, but they are simply going to church because it makes you happy. But when you have sex in the middle of the picture, it's hard for you to see all those things because your judgment is clouded. And you're beginning to form a future that God never intended for you to form. All because those hormones are lying to you and telling you you love this person. They're telling you be one with this person when God is telling you you need to run. Proverbs 14:12 says it like this: there is a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So it's possible that you could be in a relationship and feel as though everything is great, and God sees the outcome leading you down a dark path. God sees the outcome, whereas you're rushing like, if I give him sex, then we'll get married. But God sees the divorce that's down the line. God sees the abuse that's down the line. God sees all of these things that are down the line that we don't see when we only allow ourselves to focus on how we feel and our emotions and our urges. So we have to understand that sex is a beautiful gift, but it cannot be a God. Sex is always going to be destructive when it is not in the method that God created. Someone put it like this: they said it's like a fire. So it's great when it's like a fire that is keeping you warm. But when you leave a spark unattended, that's how you get a wildfire. That's how a house burns down. That's how a child harms themselves, because the fire is good in its proper context. Number 2, when you're waiting until marriage, it helps you see this person's motive. Because we have to understand that if this person is rushing you into sex, that means they genuinely never valued you. That means they don't value who you are as a person. That means they don't value what your character is. They just value what you can do for them. So we have to understand that if we're honest, and I hate to put it this way, but if we're honest, many people in the church don't even have the right motives. Sometimes there's someone in the church that'll be leading you towards sex. Someone in ministry that'll be telling you, oh, we could just repent after, no big deal. We have to understand that when you take sex out of the equation, it helps you see the character of this person. Are they pressuring me into this? Or do they value me enough to want marriage first? Or do they even value their walk with God enough to wait until marriage? And if these people aren't willing to do that, if they're not willing to respect God, why would they respect you? Matthew 7:20 says it like this: wherefore by their fruits you shall know them. So you have to understand that we don't know someone's character because they went to church. You don't know someone's character because they have a degree. You don't know someone's character because they have a lot of money. You know their character by their lifestyle. So if you see that you're with someone who they only want sex. They're not willing to engage any other way. Then you obviously can see what is driving them. The Holy Spirit is not guiding them. Their hormones, their lust, perversion is what's driving them. Number 3, when you're waiting until marriage, it forces you to build an authentic relationship. And that's so important because a sexual relationship, sex is not good enough to be a foundation. Sex is not good enough to be the reason why you're with someone. You have to be able to form an emotional connection, a spiritual connection, a mental connection. Could you imagine being married to someone and you guys have nothing in common? Nothing to talk about, nothing that interests you both, nothing that drives you, nothing connecting you to God. It's simply, well, we were having sex and I didn't want to be in sin, so we decided to get married. That's not a good enough foundation because sex does not sustain relationships. Their looks does not sustain relationships. The orgasm will not sustain a relationship. All of these things are great when things are going well, but there has to be more than that. And I know as men, a man can see a woman and boom, he's ready to go. A woman, she's going to need a conversation. She's going to need to feel loved. She's going to need to feel respected. So I know a lot of women can relate to this more than some men can. But ladies, can you imagine being with a guy who doesn't care anything about your day, doesn't care anything about your feelings, doesn't care anything about what you're saying, but he expects sex at the end of the day? He didn't cook, he didn't clean. He left you to wash the kids, and now he expects you to cook and do everything else when he's done and expects sex. Every woman in their right mind is looking like, nah, bro, that ain't happening. You know what I mean? But a lot of times, and don't get me wrong, it can be vice versa. I'm not trying to stereotype anyone, but we have to understand there must be more to your relationship. So when you remove sex, it forces you to see who you're actually with. It forces you to see if you're actually compatible. When you remove sex from it, someone messaged us one time and he was like, man, since listening to you guys' podcast, if you haven't listened to the podcast, every Thursday we release an episode. Please be sure to tune in. But they were like, man, since my girl started listening to your podcast, we don't have sex anymore. Like, what do we do? And I'm like, was that all you guys were doing? Why is it that now that you removed this from the equation, you don't know how to love them anymore? Let me tell you, when you learn to take sex out of the equation and you guys are dating with purpose, you're learning how, number one, to communicate, which is the greatest key of marriage, being able to communicate and understand one another. You learn how to pay attention to their character. You learn how to pay attention to their habits. When you're not having sex, you're seeing how serious they're taking their walk with God. You're seeing if they're just going to church or you're seeing if they're growing. You're seeing if they're just reading one Bible verse of the day, which is the verse of the day, or you see if they actually take the time to study the scriptures. You're able to see if this person, if you guys could connect or you have anything in common. All of those things are hard to notice when all you're doing is focusing on sex, focusing on how can I get her to the bedroom, how can I get him to bed, you know what I mean? So we have to be careful of not allowing our relationships to be built off of sex. Number 4, I know this is a golly dating page, but hopefully I'm not going to offend too many people, but when you avoid having sex before marriage, you're avoiding undesired outcomes. And I'm saying it like that because listen here. When we get ourselves into relationships that we should not be in it, we're sleeping with whoever is making us happy. We're sleeping with whoever we met at the club, or we got drunk so you don't even know who you slept with. You just woke up beside them. You're not understanding what you're setting yourself up for. When I was in the military, my first 2 years in the military, I worked in the infectious disease and tribal health clinic. I talked about this on the podcast, but I worked in that clinic, so we saw all the HIV patients that were on the East Coast of the military because we don't have infectious disease for every single hospital in the military, but all the people that were HIV positive, Hep C, got gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, all of the STDs that were going on along the East Coast, the majority of them were coming to us because everyone can't treat HIV properly. But, when you're cool with the patients, they'll, open up about their story. Majority of our patients are homosexual men. We understand that they're typically the ones who end up becoming HIV positive. But I was talking to a young lady, and she was new to the military. You know what I mean? So it's possible she grew up in a Christian home, seemed like a nice young lady. It's possible that she was raised properly, but it's the first time they're outside of their parents' wings. And, first time they're able to be an adult on their own. And then, I remember, she's talking about her story, and apparently, it was a one-night stand. I don't know if it was a one-night stand or someone, she just started dating. But I believe it was a one-night stand. Slept with that guy one time. Boom, got HIV. So now the rest of her life, she has a disease that she can't get rid of unless God, literally God himself, heals her of that. Something that she has to battle for the rest of her life, all because of a one-night stand. You see, when we tell people to wait until marriage, I'm not saying the person you marry can't have any issue. They should get tested, definitely my personal opinion. But I want you to understand that you can avoid some of these scenarios when you're not placing yourself there. And I know a lot of times you guys listening, you're like, but what if they ain't got no STD? Okay, but what if they don't and then you end up pregnant? And I know some people think it doesn't take one time, but that's literally all it takes to get someone pregnant. You know what I mean? And it's like you have to understand that all of these things that you're not prepared for and worrying, okay, well, if I have sex with him, he's finally going to love me. And a lot of women think like that, and then the guy finally leaves them after he gets sex. Or the guy compromises because all of his boys are saying, man, you're a punk, you're soft, you're this, you're that, because you ain't sleeping around. And the moment he does that, he loses his way. All of these things weren't desired, but you just wanted to fit in. You wanted to feel loved. You wanted to feel valued, only to realize when you do settle, it doesn't come with the promises that it was delivering to you. You know, what only thing that comes after that is the guilt and the shame. But when you do things God's way, that doesn't happen. So I'll end it with this, the fifth thing. The fifth thing we must understand is that it does actually honor God. The Bible says it like this in Hebrews 13:4 in the ESV. Let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled. For God will judge the sexually immoral and the adulterous. And everybody be like, God know my heart, trust me. That should be scary that God knows our heart, because God is judging the person that is living in adultery, living in fornication, living in sexual immorality. And it's not only just him saying, oh, shame on you, but come into heaven. Listen, bro, I ain't trying to be on Judgment Day thinking I knew God and God looks at me like, depart from me, I never knew you. Because there's a lot of spiritual people, church people he's going to say that to. He's not saying that to the worldly people when they tell him, didn't I prophesy in your name? Nah, it wasn't. It was church people God is going. Jesus said, I'm going to tell that to, like, listen here. You know, so we have to take our walk with God seriously. You know, and it's hard to imagine that God considers something like sex to be holy, but he actually does. God considers sex to be holy. When it's done in his context, it's a beautiful thing. It's something that honors him. If God wanted sex to be something that was pointless, he would have never made it pleasurable. He could have just made us reproduce off shaking hands. You get married, you shake hands with your spouse, and boom, baby pops out. God could have done this any kind of way, but he made sure it was pleasurable because he wants that to be a gift to the married. He wants you to enjoy that process. But when we do it outside of his context, it brings along a lot of damage and harm that we did not sign up for. But when we do it his way, we always do it in a way that honors him. And when we honor God, we get his joy, we get his peace, we get what lasts. You don't have to worry about, oh, is this person going to leave me? You don't have to worry about, does this person compare me to their ex? If we're doing it God's way, we're not worrying about, is it holy or not? It is. We don't have to worry about, oh man, she's not as good, he's not as good, they're not this size. Listen, all of those things come from when we do things our way and not his way. When we're comparing things to porn, we're comparing things to our past. But when we do things in a way that honors God, it brings us true joy. You have to understand that there is no joy outside the presence of God. Every other type of sin literally will leave you happy for a moment and leave you questioning life after. Leave you turning to the things of this world, never truly satisfying. But when you honor God, it is always a blessing attached to it. So yeah, if you listen to the end of this episode, drop below what are reasons why that you stay abstinent, or what are reasons why you stay celibate, because I know there are a lot of younger people especially that are going to be listening to this, and a lot of people who have experienced sex and they're so frustrated because they're tired of the single season. So drop some encouragement in the comments below. Tell me some things, some reasons why you're deciding to wait until marriage. You know, and I know a lot of people are going to say to honor my future spouse, but I want it to be more than that. What is something that God is doing in your life that's causing you to do that? So go ahead and drop some comments. And if you're listening when I'm dropping this episode, please remember, this is the last sale y'all getting of the year. So go ahead and get a Black Friday sale. I'm trying to do a relaunch at the end of the year, or maybe early next year, get some winter gear out to you guys. You know, so go ahead and show some love to the page. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And definitely when Safa gets some time, she'll be back in these videos. She loves you guys. We appreciate y'all. Peace.